timekeeper because I could be the one to go until 4 p.m. But I will limit myself just as we get the presentation started. I've had the privilege of training some of your staff in the different SACCOs, so it's nice to be able to see the leaders of the teams. Yes, I've really enjoyed my circuit to different places. I think tomorrow I'll also be in Naivasha with another team, so I'm excited about that. One thing that I would like to say before I start, and I say many times when I'm training, in our family we have this wonderful gift of speaking fast. I tell people I don't know if our ancestors maybe were night runners, but if you look at me, I can promise you I don't run. And so we run with our words. So if at any point in time there is a challenge with my speed, kindly just let me know and I'll be happy to slow down for your benefit, or if there's clarification that is needed, I'm happy to do that. In as much as you can have really good systems, really good thoughts, and let's say marketing things, at the end of the day, all that technical knowledge, all of that expertise is inside people, and people are complicated. Nobody leaves, if you're coming from a home where things are broken and there's drama in your home area as a staff member, as an individual, you don't automatically, as you walk in through the door, just switch, and now I am like a machine or a computer. And because of that, organizations that invest in making sure that people are able to transition from their different phases to work are the ones that outperform the others, okay? So, what we're going to do is look at different areas, the main different areas of HR and how they link to operations. There's very many things we can look at and touch on, but as we go through this particular session, what I'm hoping you can do is maybe identify quickly, okay, this particular area we're not doing so well, this one we can improve, or here's where the challenge is, and then think about how do I start with one thing. As soon as we go back, what is one thing I can be able to implement, and then from there on, how can I get support to do it better. In the long run, no matter how good or successful you are as a leader, or how clever or crafty, your business and your organization and its future are in the hands of the people you hire. There are 4 main steps that we look at in HR: attracting the right people, hiring the right people, developing the right people, and being able to advance the right people. And these are the 5 things for you as leaders that you want to make sure that you are covering, whether you have an admin or operations or HR person who is supporting you in the office or not. Hiring right. Hiring right, that's where all the issues usually start. If you have somebody who is not in the right place, then automatically everything goes down from there. The second one is managing performance, staying compliant, handling conflict and culture, and then we look at succession and development. And in succession and development, we also look at learning and development within the organization prior to succession conversations. Step 1, attracting. Attracting the right people. HR planning is one of the most underrated things that organizations do, all right? We just find ourselves in a situation where now we have people or we have an opportunity, somebody left and we just need to replace them. Many times people don't even have a conversation of, do we actually need to replace this person? Do we actually need to have an extra person sitting at this desk? Or can we use somebody internally, to grow them internally to have that particular, to take up that particular role? And then we look at talent attraction and talent allocation as well. So, HR planning, simply put, is creating a structure or having conversations with the relevant people around what needs to be done and what is the outcome that we want, and so working backwards. So we start with the end in mind. This is how we want to show up. This is what we want to be known as. This is the gap that we see, because obviously it's not a new Sacco that you're developing. There's already things that are happening. But once you recognize the feedback that we're getting or the perception people have of us, something is amiss. Sometimes we jump quickly to, oh, let's train our employees in customer service. Oh, let's get rid of this particular person. Let's get a new person to handle this particular department. But we don't start with the bigger picture of stepping back and saying, okay, what exactly, like, you know, when we cast our vision, we all have our vision, our mission, our values, but very rarely are those things even put in place. But going back and see, where is the critical gap from where I want to be and what I am seeing, and whatever that vision is, now being able to say, okay, what do I need in terms of human resource to get me there? The importance of our HR planning to our operations. Number one, it helps us design the structure that will be most efficient. Not every single organization needs to have the same structure. Of course, there's contextualization. What you are doing in Kilifi might not be exactly the same as what is being done in Kitui, for example. Not because, I mean, of course, there's the regulatory elements, and those ones have to be the same. But in terms of how you are assigning personnel, it should not be necessarily because these ones are doing it. What is your local context? What is the need that is there where you are? Okay? And that is how you design your structure. Ensure, and the other importance to operations is that we ensure enough human resources and recruitment of the right people to achieve our organizational goals. Sometimes the challenge is there are not enough people in a particular department. There are not enough people on the floor. There are not enough people doing sales. There are not enough people at the back end. There are not enough people supporting operations. You as the CEO don't have enough time, for example, to be able to attend to all the things. Maybe in that case, then you, of course, have your deputy, but maybe you will need even a PA, just because of maybe a particular season or maybe a particular work assignment that you need to be able to complete. The other benefit of HR planning is that it helps to review the talents that you have and retain the contributing and performing employees. If you don't have a plan and a structure of where we are going, even the people who are not performing will just find their space. They will find things to do. They will just be busy. They will just be submitting certain things, but they are not critical to what you want to be able to do. All right? And so, your first, that's not the reflection part. The slides and the content will be available. I'll be able to share it, so you can be able to look at that. But basically, you look at your goals related to your vision and mission, and then break that down to the different components and the different elements or divisions you want to be able to do in a particular period of time. Map out the different roles. Of course, you can get support for this. It might not be your strong suite or your forte, so you can get support to do this. And then structure the roles and the different teams or different divisions. One of the things that we look at closer to the end is some of the best practices, especially in learning and development. And a lot of organizations that are doing better are no longer just structuring people based on your traditional silos. Our new to finance, our marketing, our sales, these ones are admin, these ones are doing IT. You're no longer just doing them based on the technical skills, but you're doing them based on collaborative skills. So if a role is member-facing, for example, whatever kind of role, if maybe it is the support, the IT support, and somehow they speak to members, and then there's somebody who is doing front office and customer care and is speaking to members, there needs to be a place in the organization that allows these people who do the same kind of roles, even though they're in different departments, to share ideas and to speak to one another, because then you enrich their work, okay? Then you define the job description, the KPIs, and the collaborations, the standards, and then you attach those to the role. So an activity that I would like you to think about. This one you don't necessarily have to do now because it might mean that you need to go back to your strategic plan for the next couple of years. But thinking about what do you want to achieve, and especially in the area of brand. I know we're not talking about branding, but a lot of our member engagement, our member trust, our building of our portfolios has to do with our brand, how people perceive us, how people have thought about SACCOs, how people think about teachers' SACCOs, how people have interacted, okay? So in terms of what you want to achieve, what is the perception and what is both the perception, so your personal brand or your SACCO image and brand, what do you want to achieve in that area in the next 1 to 3 years? What is it? Whatever wild, imaginative thing you want to be. You want to be at this level. Think about it also financially. Think about it in terms of any other ranking that is important to you. Where do you want to be in the next 1 to 3 years? What roles do you need to help you get there? Okay? And then, do those roles currently exist in your organization right now? Are they there? And if they are they doing well? Are they doing well? Because the reality is, once we say 3 years, it seems like it's a long distance. But if nothing changes, nothing changes, okay? So if you are being perceived in this way and you want to get here, you need to be able to critically look. If it's about marketing, yes, you have a marketing person. Is the marketing person up to standard? Do you feel confident that this person or this team can get you to where you want to go? The other reflection question are the different job descriptions for those roles. Okay? Are they there, or do they need to change? Do you need to have another discussion? Do you need to clarify with them? And what are the key performance indicators for each role? Okay? What are the key performance indicators for each role? Because again, if you don't describe it, if you don't clarify what exactly you want as an outcome, as a leader, because it's up to you. It's not up to the team on the ground for them to decide for themselves what it is they're going to deliver. It is you to be able to direct what they're going to deliver. All right. The second element is talent attraction. Talent attraction has to do with the design of messages, of content, around drawing the best people for the different roles that you have, okay? Or for the different opportunities that exist within the Sacco, okay? The design of messages, content, channels, and visuals to aid the company in the attraction of talent that is needed to achieve organizational goals, okay? It's very simple. If you don't have the right message, then people will not be drawn, the right people will not be drawn to come and work for you or to come and work alongside you, okay? So you want, in terms of its importance to operations, you want to attract employees that keep up fast enough to keep up with operational timelines, but also not too fast that it costs you later. It is better for you to take longer and for it to be a longer process to recruit people than to hire people very quickly. And then now you realize it's the wrong person, and then the process of, disciplining them or releasing them from the organization becomes very costly. And then you want to also be able to attract the right profiles for specific needs in the business operation or in the Sacco operations. Have you ever had a scenario where you have hired people, and immediately you've hired them, you have realized they're not a good fit?
Now, I think for me, what the kind of experience I've shared is that I've had instances where we want to hire somebody, and we already come up with the requirements and everything, and this person seems to be meeting all the requirements. We even shortlist them, they come for an interview, and they even seem to be very eloquent in the way they present themselves in the interview. And you look at them and you feel like this is someone who appears to be knowledgeable in the subject matter, and you decide to hire them. Now, what has happened sometimes is that when this person comes on board, you of course start assigning them work with the hope that they'll be able to deliver as per the expectations. What sometimes happens is that you realize that this person is not able to deliver. And you wonder, because you look at the credentials, you look at even the experience, you have a feeling that the experience and the credentials are supposed to be adequate for this person to do this job. But for some reason, you find that your job doesn't get done. And that has happened from time to time, and you wonder what happened. So those are some of the experiences. I don't know whether my colleagues have also experienced that. But for me, that's I have experienced. And there are even instances that you even have now to come in and do the job yourself. Then you even wonder, why did they even hire this person if this was the person who was supposed to do this job?
Facility, accommodation, and in fact, this one gentleman came in. I think up until today, I have never met a candidate as good as this particular person. In fact, he had done advanced research. He had a presentation, PowerPoint, on how he was going to take the marketing and the training and development to the next level. In fact, the entire panel was just like, we should just give him the job right now. I was like, okay, let's relax. But I mean, he was very impressive in all the boxes ticked. I mean, almost too good to be true, but because already we had done the shortlisting and he had gotten in independently, it was already so good until we went to the background checks. The first place I think I called, he had worked for a resort in either Naivasha or Nakuru, and the people refused to talk to me on the phone. They wanted me to email and send my credentials of why I was getting information about this person. So I thought that was very strange. But they thought that had been sent by this person because he had threatened them when he was leaving. And so I was like, oh, that seems very strange. I called another place. Turns out he had been let go because of sexual harassment. And then the third thing was that he had forged all his documents. He had never gone to any of the institutions, and there were top institutions. He had never gone to any of those places, but the things were there, the documents. As far as we could tell, I mean, of course, it's not the DCI, so we can't, do that kind of verification. But he had forged all of them. But this was somebody who were willing to bring on board because he had done his homework. There's some people like that, and the level of fraud has gone up. And worse still now, I'm glad you're going to have a conversation about digital integration and audit. Nowadays, people fake everything. They might go to school, but even how they get the degree of certifications is questionable. How they have done their jobs previously. Because sometimes, again, it's making sure people put their referees in their CV, right? Sometimes, don't just call the referees. Speak to their direct supervisor from before. How was this task? This is the kind of task we're going to give them. How do we know, do you feel like they could be able to do this thing or not be able to do this thing? And yeah, sorry about that situation, but hopefully you had a probation period in which you could let them go, because usually that's the problem. If the contract is not very clear about probation and then also documenting, people usually, in Africa we like that. This is how, people just adjusting, they're going through something, and people can be very manipulative. And so you don't end up documenting. But literally, I tell people, documentation is your biggest protection, always. Whether it is for a positive thing or a negative thing, documentation is key. So the very first time there's a question mark, it should be documented. You might not necessarily go to the file, but at least there has been a conversation. So that if this person is let go, and usually number one, they will run to the labor office. The labor office is very biased, and I say that publicly and confidently, towards employees. Very biased, and organizations pay a lot of money every year to the labor organizations and to the employees. And so if you don't watch and cover your back as the leader, as the Sacco, then you will pay, even for somebody who is, very clearly, is not up to task. Yeah, but I hope they were released. Hopefully. All right, thank you for sharing.
You had to retrain.
Sorry, you had to train?
Yeah, to retrain.
To retrain was HR planning, right? And so if you look at, this is where we want to go. Some things need to happen before the other things. So imagine if you have, let's say a Sacco starting today, right? And you don't even have, let's say, your mission and vision very clear and what you want to do, but you've already gotten tellers, all right? Or you've already gotten people who are going to be sitting at the front desk, and you don't even have an office, all right? That's a very, very basic example, but it doesn't make sense, right? And so you need to be able to, again, as the leader, you have planned, this is where we want to go, but then cascade or look at or sort of space out how you're going to recruit for these positions. And in the meantime, if I can't get 5 people for this particular position, who else can be able to double up and then be able to hold that role for now as we go to where we can be in a place where we can either afford another employee, or we can be able to see that, okay, this part is being done really well, okay? In the HR docket, for example, we don't start necessarily with the HR of team building and productivity before we have our HR admin in place. We have a proper system of filing, of making sure people's details are there. So you can't just be training people and taking them for fun things if you don't have the files in order, because that is leaving you open to a compliance risk, right? And so you need to think about, even as I'm recruiting, what is the most important thing that I need to recruit for now? When I look at my entire organization, our bottom line, what we want to achieve over the next year or the next 6 months, what is the most important thing, and how can I recruit the right people at the right time? Whether you're growing it internally or you're growing people from the inside or you're recruiting them from outside. The importance to operations is that you ensure the alignment of the organization's, the competencies required to each functional area, okay? What are the things that need to get done? What are the skills and the abilities that we need? And do we see these in the people that we are recruiting or the people we are shortlisting? Even part of the adverts that you put out to get people, or the assignment you give people, because sometimes you can say, go and look for me, or recommend to me somebody who can do this. The better it is you understand what competencies you need in the organization, the clearer you can be to somebody to tell them, find me somebody who can do this, find me somebody who can do this, okay? Allocate people in the right role where they perform the best, select the best people that will lead to achieving the goals and be able to do the work with others, very critical, working with other people, all right? And those are the different steps, defining the elements of the hiring process. And the more clear you are about your recruitment process, the less, again, it's about risk, the less likely you are to find yourself, again, in the labor court or the labor office, describing why you did not use favoritism, there was no discrimination, there was no challenge. Some people will come many years even after they've left the Sacco and come and say, in the time I was there, it's like they already, from the time I was being recruited, they already had something against me. They're already doing this. But if you have a very clear recruitment process, which is replicated, every single person comes in the same way, then it is hard for you to even find yourself in compromised situation where somebody in the board comes and says, this one is my nephew, muingize tu hapo ndani, okay? I don't know if you've had those kinds of situations where somebody's nephew you're told is the best in IT, but it's not really IT, he's very good in his own social media. It doesn't really help the organization, all right? But if you have very clear recruitment processes, you can even push back a little. Of course, you will need some emotional intelligence and discernment to know how you're going to push back, but it can be very clear that no, you see, if you bring this person in this way, it is going to reduce the morale of the rest of the staff, or people are not going to feel like everybody is going through the same process. Design the right application questions, define the requirements for the outcomes and success criteria that we want, evaluate the applicants, and then select them, and share feedback and close out with all applicants, okay? One of the places that we don't do well, let me say and own it, in HR, and I don't know whether it's a challenge for you, and maybe it's something that you can give feedback to the person who manages people in the organization, is giving feedback to all applicants. Many times we get so excited before a good candidate, but then we don't give feedback to the other clients who might be as good. Or if you found this one person who is not performing, you need to replace them, where you would start recruiting from the beginning. You need to be able to have left the door open or have a positive relationship with the people who you turned down. Some questions to ask yourself. Beyond compensation, what would be value, or what value do you as a leader or you as a Sacco offer to your members, not to your members, to your staff? Think about it. Why should, say for example, if I was coming to work for you, why should I come to work for you? Yes, there's a job offer, and yes, there's money that will be paid to me, or some benefits that I will get. But what is it that you think, and you have established, that is extra value, or that is value that you can offer your staff members? You know, you're just there for the technical elements, and you know, I am the traditional model of I am the dictator, meaning your kusema, but you also want people to feel like they belong, that they want to work there specifically, not they just want to work anywhere, they want to work for you, they want to work with you and alongside you, and part of that is for you to change even your language and your engagement with your staff, for them to be able to feel like they belong and this is a place they want to grow in. And we all know, even when we talk about the member side, right? Nothing does better promotion than members referring other people, right? Good word of mouth, good publicity. When somebody refers somebody else, that will be a client and a member that you have for life. And the same thing happens with employees. Sometimes we think about our employees as people who are doing a functional task. Yes, some of them might subscribe and be members, right? But they are also people who can market for you even beyond the members that you've had, the official members and clients that come in. Your employees are your biggest asset, once again, to be able to speak kuwapigia debe outside regarding how they feel, how they are treated, when they speak to their family members, when they speak to their friends, and all of these people are they are part of different societal organizations and spaces. And as they speak positively about, this is my experience with our CEO, this is our experience with the leadership at our workplace, they are able to provide very good marketing for you, even though they're not maybe in the marketing department. The next thing we look at quickly is employee onboarding. A lot of organizations have very good onboarding systems and very clear ways in which people are taught what is happening in the organization. So employee onboarding, which is the process of integrating new employees into the culture and into the company, understanding the structure, understanding and setting the tone for the experience in the organization, and then getting them the relevant tools and information needed for them to function in the organization productively. The importance to your overall operations is number one, employees get inducted into the culture. It was mentioned here that when people were being hired from outside, they were coming with their own culture. The reality is everybody has their own culture. Different organizations have their own culture. Depending on who you assign to do the onboarding, you will have a problem staff from the beginning to the end, or you will have one who will be able to adapt, okay? Sometimes you just say, okay, the person who will be the direct boss, that's employee onboarding. But that's a problem because maybe the person inducting this new employee already has a bad attitude towards the organization. And so they just replicate that bad attitude. They say, that department, they usually do this. These marketers don't rely on them for this. They're teaching, whether it's the official onboarding or not. So you want to put your best foot forward with regards to who does the onboarding. And there's different elements. Of course, there's the technical aspects, but there's also the outlook. If you have somebody who is a staff member that you know, this one is usually very enthusiastic about teamwork, enthusiastic about collaboration, enthusiastic about progress and innovation, you want that person to lead that onboarding process. It should not just be limited to, okay, this is the person who's going to be the direct supervisor, let them on board. The second thing is that employee onboarding helps to ensure employees fully understand the scope of their responsibilities and deliver necessary functional knowledge for them to be able to perform. Sometimes in our interviews and even in how we describe a role, somebody doesn't understand exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And I tell people it's better for you to over-explain to a new employee, no matter how senior they are or how junior they are. Over-explain to them, this is what is required, this one is required, this one is required, so that they will never say they were not told, but also if you realize as you are onboarding them that there are question marks somewhere, you can be able to clarify at that point. Or if they are very unsure, if they seem completely clueless about something that is supposed to be critical to their role, you can fix it early. It also boosts engagement and productivity from the first touch point all the way with the operations, okay? This is the step-by-step about how you are going to be able to do the employee onboarding. And some questions you can think about. Again, I will share these slides so that you can be able to review them. But some important things to think about: how would you want your new employee to feel in the first month or the first 10 days that they are working for you? Again, back to our original question, what is it that you want to be known for? What is it that you want the brand of the organization to be for people externally but also people internally? What are some of the activities that need to happen for the employees to feel this way? I quickly just want to jump to the developing and advancing. So we've looked at attracting and hiring. That's usually the most important thing. But once you have your employees inside the organization, you need to be able to develop them. Employees are not, I tell people, are not like furniture or other capital investments that we have, the land, the technology. You know, once you've bought your table can even stay all the years of your life with you. But human beings need continual development and investment. So we look at the issues of performance management, learning and development, mentorship and coaching, compensation benefits, employee relations, and transition planning. Performance management has to do with taking into account or reviewing employees' performance and their level of contribution of each member to be able to see whether they're performing at par, whether they're doing better, or they are not meeting their standards, okay, which impacts the overall organizational goals. The importance to our operations, it just helps you be able to know, are people performing? Are things going in the direction we want? It is just critical. That's just bare minimum. You just need to know how are people doing, and whether they're directly reporting to you or they have their own managers and supervisors. It's important for you to be able to have a way in which you can measure the performance, not just relying on word of mouth. One of your supervisors or one of your team leaders tells you, "Oh, my team is doing great." You need to be able to know on what metric are they saying they're doing great. Maybe they're doing great because they're all doing the wrong thing. They're doing great in the wrong thing that you don't know and you can't measure and you can't be able to see. HR or leadership is able to nurture employees' experience and development based on their individual performance. Not all employees need the same kind of training or the same kind of development. Okay, they need some people. You can say, okay, all of us go for customer service training. There's some people who are performing excellently. There might be something they, maybe as a team of 3, need to be able to learn, and the rest just need to learn general customer service. Some people need to learn about audit. Some people need to learn about sales. But based on individual performance, and if you're being able to track that, you can be able to know what to do. Management is also able to firefight and improve business performance through individual performance. Many times, by the time we reach the place of crisis, where something is falling apart completely, usually a big indicator is that the performance was not being measured at the right time or in the right way, with right metrics. And so now we come to a crisis where this whole department, either they have quit or they have decided that they are no longer contributing to the organization's development, all right? But if you have already started seeing one person has left, there's just this department, people are constantly leaving, there's high staff turnover. As soon as you start seeing, the trend of 1, 2, 3 people have left in a short period of time, you can step in and say, okay, so what is going on? Before the entire department leaves, or at least you've put measures in place for that knowledge to remain. Even if the people are leaving, maybe it was their time to go, the knowledge has been put in place. Our step-by-step looking at it, from the JD, we look at making sure the JD is linked to the targets, so they're not, the JD is not here and then the targets or the KPIs we want on this other side. Make sure they're linked. Establish a matrix or a standard for performance that will encompass the entire role. Sometimes people are required to do 10 things, but your performance evaluation is only looking at 5 things, all right? Or there are 10 things you're going to evaluate, but the job description says 5 things, okay? When there is that mismatch, and then something happens where this person is now put on performance improvement and then maybe they're released from the organization, that one opens you up to liability. Because the labor office will be like, this is what you said they should do. You're evaluating them based on this. How did you expect them to know? And because it's not documented, then you're the one who is liable for this particular termination of an employee. So you must make sure everything that is on the job description is being measured somehow, okay? However quantitative or qualitative it is. For some roles, it could be how many maybe members you brought in, how many presentations you did, how many pitches you went, how many workshops you attended. Others could be things to do with collaboration. How will you measure collaboration? Okay, you need to think about that. Maybe the person needs to be reporting every time they've worked on a collaborative assignment, how many times they have participated in organization-wide activities. make sure that the JD is closely linked to the targets that you have. And then establish, I think the power is gone off. Establish,
Maybe I just wanted to say that it's 10:35.
it's 10:35. Okay, thank you. Create a culture of continuous feedback. Don't wait until the end of the year for you to do the performance evaluation. Continually, and encourage your team leaders to continually be evaluating and giving feedback to the staff members, but also you yourself should get feedback, whether it is quarterly, twice a quarter, or maybe monthly, whatever it is that you want, so that you can also help employees to be able to build themselves. All right? And then establish policies around rewarding and also around performance management, so that people know what to expect. If we don't meet the standard, what will the outcome be? And it's the same for every single person in the organization. All right. And then very quickly, learning and development, which is part of performance management. If people are not doing things well, if you want to grow people, you need to invest in your learning and development, okay? Some of the reasons why learning and development matters: it drives performance and productivity, it enables strategic transformation, increases the employee engagement. Employees who are not doing the same thing over and over and over again. So I came in 2015, it's now 2025, and I'm doing the same exact job. I haven't grown. Okay, I always tell people the best HR practice when we're talking as HR practitioners is that you are investing in people who will serve you for a time, but they are going to ultimately leave. It is very naive of us to imagine that the employees who are with us right now will stay with us forever, all right? But one of the reasons we can think about, or we can be able to keep them as long as possible, is to invest in them, okay? But then remember, they also part of an employee's psyche is thinking, the longer I stay here, am I getting better? Am I getting more competitive for the job market? Or am I remaining the same? Because people will compare. I've been in this organization for 3 years. In the 3 years, I am still at the same level I left university. When I look at my colleagues in this other organization, then they are being given opportunities for training, they are being given collaborative assignments, they are being seconded for different things, they are being given opportunities to do job rotation, for example. And so that person is going to be more marketable in 3 years when we are both leaving the organization. So you want to always think about it, even from the employee's point of view. How can I invest in my staff in a way that keeps them in the organization, but also that helps them think positively about us, even as they prepare themselves to go back to the job market later, okay? Some of the best practices, and these ones I'll just give them quickly, in learning and development, or how you train your people. Number one is strategic alignment, okay? You need to link all your training to the business or Sacco goals. You need to think about what is it that we want to do, and the training must be related to that. We don't just do training because the training is available. It has to be related to the organizational goals, so that you can come back even in performance management and say, okay, so what did you do with the training? We gave you the training, you had this gap, we saw you are not performing, we gave you this training, what has been the outcome of that training? So we do our training needs analysis, or the gap analysis that has been spoken about there, I think by Elizabeth, and then we look at the return on investment. So our trainings are not just open-ended. And sometimes, as leaders, we can be a bit lazy. We tell them, just write a report from the training you've done. But then that's all that happens. They just return a report. It's like being in school. You just write a report from what it is you have done in terms of research. But you need to have other ways to measure how effective the training they have done is. Is it improving their behavior? Has it changed? The thing that made you do the training, let's say customers or members who are complaining about this particular person's attitude, has it improved? Has those complaints gone down? We look at that particular trend. Things like we gave people a training on collaboration and teamwork and knowledge sharing. Can we see evidence of knowledge sharing? Is there a place where we can see people are inputting what they have learned from training? People who have gone from training for training are training other people. Is there evidence of that? Those are some of the things we can look at in terms of return on investment. Another area that you can consider for your Sacco is the issue of continuous learning culture, all right? There is a model that we use for capacity building, the 70-20-10 learning model, all right? And research has found that in terms of building employee capacity, the best way for employees to learn, 70% is on the job, in the workplace that they are in. 20% comes from, 70% is in their work, 20% comes from social interaction, so peer learning, collaborative assignments, if you give them coaching and mentorship, and then 10% is from formal education, trainings, workshops, certifications, and all those things. What we often do as organizations, we spend a lot more money on the sponsoring trainings, sending people back to school, getting certifications. That one, which is supposed to be 10%, maybe we spend maybe 20%, 30%, 40%. But for you to think about how can my Sacco be continually a space of learning in terms of the organization, think about it that way. What is it that in their workplace they can be able to learn from people around them? Okay? What can they be able to learn? So yes, my job is this one, but can I learn from the person in that department? Can you have spaces where people share their experiences? It can be one member you're dealing with, but that member has been dealt with in different departments, and people have different experiences. If you have a platform where they can share with each other, it makes each of them as individuals better employees, okay? 70%, the learning should be on the job and things they do daily. How do they continually improve? 20% should be places where they do peer sharing, peer feedback, peer collaboration, okay? And the coaching, if you're able to get some coaching or mentorship within the organization, then 10% is looking at that, all right? Another best practice there is blended learning. So people don't always have to go physically somewhere for training. If you can be able to help them access online trainings, nowadays there are very many certifications that are free, certifications that, or courses that they can do online. There's a lot of look for on-demand micro-learning, excuse me, micro-learning resources. Micro-learning resources help individuals on their own journey. The example I gave earlier, people who deal with members directly, not everyone has the same challenge. You might discover this one employee, their issue is, it can be something small. Maybe you want to send them somewhere to speak on behalf of the Sacco, but they are not confident in their public speaking, for example, very basic example. You don't have to give everybody in the department that training. You can, this particular person that you've noted has this challenge, you can send them themselves for that training, or you can give them links to where they can get that information. All right. Leadership development pathways. This one has to do with the succession. And I think the example by Honorable Sitati here was a very good one, a very good example with regards to how you build employees from start all the way to the top, okay? Identify high potential employees early and then have a structured leadership pipeline and mentorship. People who are doing exceptionally well, you should not just leave them for one day, you promote them. Let them already come close to the decision makers. Help them already, give them stretch assignments where they're doing more than just what their role is so that they can be able to build their capacity. Some of the emerging trends that you can see in learning and development, AI, learning platforms, I think there will be discussion about AI and integration with technology, but being able to just see how AI can help you as an organization, or technology at least, in your operations, your day-to-day operations, in the way you manage people, in the support that you give them, the courses they can do, they can be able to benefit them. And then skills-based organizations is a new thing that we'll talk a lot about in helping organizations become better. So you don't have to focus on the technical skills only, right? You don't want to hire somebody who is very, very, very good in this one thing only. The better skilled, wider skilled a person is, the more beneficial they are to you as a leader, okay? Learning in the flow of the work, I think I've talked about that, about the 70-20-10 model, I want to end with this, where we started. For you as a leader, most important things, the 5 things you need to remember or think about is hiring right. You hire slow and you fire fast. People who are not working or people who are doing illegal things are not people to be negotiated with and kept in the organization. You need to figure out a way to be able to help them transition out very quickly, okay? Hire slowly, having thought about the different elements, but release people quickly when it is costing you a lot. The cost of a wrong hire is always higher than the cost of a thorough process, okay? The second thing, managing performance. Performance is not just about today, it is about preparing people for tomorrow. What you don't audit and what you don't fix and what you don't set standards for today will be costly tomorrow because it will impact everybody else. If I'm doing so much and I am not getting recognized for my performance today, then tomorrow I don't have any incentive to do better or to be better. And the performance that I set influences somebody else. They're like, oh, okay, so I can do half-baked work and it will not be an issue. Or I will not be fired, all right? This other person is not getting released. Then that does not help the organization. Staying compliant, okay? Compliance is not just about paperwork. It is an insurance for you, insurance against risk, okay? In the way that we recruit, the better it is we spend our money and our time in getting the right people, in managing them well, in releasing them well. I tell people, once your employee has stayed there, finished the probation period, you must make sure that you understand what the law says about how you will discipline, how you will regulate their work, and how you will transition them out. Okay? Handling conflict and culture, this is the 4th one, all right? Make sure that you are consistent, okay? There are many times when leaders, especially if you don't like conflict, you're just like, oh, ni watu wazima, they can be able to manage themselves. There's many ways in which you decide, let them just sort out their own problems. But many times when you leave conflict to fester, it becomes worse, people take sides, and before you know it, you have an organization that is at its knees because of one conflict that you did not deal with. If you're not confident in conflict management, I would encourage you to invest in building your conflict management skills. All right, and then the last one is succession and development. The best leaders plan themselves out of a role. Succession is sustainability, both for your own role, but for the roles that are represented in your organization. If you do not have a way in which knowledge is being stored in your organization, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that that should be your first order of business once you go back. You need to figure out for every single department, we need to, outside of just the general policies and practices, we need to go back to the place where we store knowledge or we store information so that other people can be able to build it, right? Not just on our website. There are certain things which are not just the technical elements. They are how people have built a relationship. There's a particular clerk who knows how this member or this member team or this family like things done. That needs to be captured somewhere so that if that clerk leaves, the next person coming in continues in that same way. That one is not just the theory and the elements around there. I think my time is up. My time is up. Right?